very good afternoon to you and welcome to NTV at 1. My name is Zeynab Ismail. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to address the nation this afternoon on the coronavirus pandemic in a speech likely to review the expiring dusk to dawn curfew and containment measures in 4 counties which have been in place for the last 42 days. As we anticipate that address with no clear indication yet on exactly when it will happen, we have our reporters in different locations across the country to review these controls. Joining us live from Mombasa County is Kevin Mutai. Silas Apollo is in Nairobi's Eastleigh Estate and Brenda Wanga is live from our newsroom. But we begin with Kevin Mutai, who is in Mombasa County. Now, Kevin, Mombasa is among the counties that have been affected by the restriction of movement order by the government. Are the residents of Mombasa anticipating or eager to really hear what the president will say with regards to the cessation of movement in these particular counties and, of course, the dusk to dawn curfew as well?
Well, of course, yes, that is what every resident, not only here in Mombasa, but the 3 coastal counties that the government enforced the cessation of movement. Those are the counties of Kwale, the county of Mombasa, and as well as the county of Kilifi, where currently, where today that president's address definitely is expected to also paint a picture of how the fight against COVID-19 has been going on, what the government has done, and of course also remember that the government further instituted a lockdown in Old Town within Mvita constituency, and that was because of the spike in terms of, in numbers of COVID-19 cases that have been witnessed in the region, because the government took this particular measure because this area was marked as one of the hotspots for the spread of the pandemic. But of course, even if the government, for instance, Zeynab, decides to lift the cessation of movement in the county of Kilifi, we don't know, but if that happens and of course decides to still extend in other areas, then definitely that will mean that residents will still have to stay put here in the region. There's also Old Town area. Old Town area now enters, I think, 9 days since the enforcement of cessation of movement within that area was affected by the government, and of course this has had an economic impact to the residents, the businessmen here, because they've not, their movements have been limited. They cannot move in and out of these particular regions. But of course, remember, the president's address will definitely touch on great issues that perhaps maybe will definitely either convince the members of this particular region on how, if at all they'll decide to extend, then definitely I'm sure that they'll come up with more ways of instituting, if at all there'll be more measures in the fight against this pandemic. But of course, it has been a concern for even health authorities. There are areas here in Mombasa, for instance, Mvita constituency, where it has been recording cases of COVID-19. We've seen mass testing happening also in Likoni, where there have been cases for COVID-19 in Nyali as well. There have been cases Kilifi currently, according to an address that was given by the county governor, that is Amason Kingi. That particular region has no COVID-19 case. Kilifi, currently there's no person infected with the virus, but of course mass testing has been going on, and we've not had any case since the last 6 patients recovered from the virus. So we're only remaining with 2 coastal counties, that is in Mombasa and Kwale counties, where there are 2 patients, and of course hundreds others in the 2 counties who are currently in isolation. Mass testing is still going on in the region, and of course with the efforts to try and stem the spread of the virus. Remember, the government has been advocating for social distancing, regular washing of hands, and maintaining proper hygiene. But of course, if this, if the government anticipates to maybe extend the dawn to dusk curfew, then we expect also perhaps maybe to see more measures that maybe will be taken by the Ministry of Health in the fight against the spread of the virus. Back to you, Zeynab.
All right, Kevin Mutai there from the coastal region. Thank you, Kevin, for that update. And we now cross over live to Eastleigh area here in Nairobi, where we have our Silas Apollo. Remember, Eastleigh and Old Town in Mombasa were among the areas that were highlighted as major hotspots for the COVID-19. Now, Silas, what is the situation in Eastleigh at this particular point with regards to the anticipation on the president's address?
Yes, Zeynab, we're here at Garissa area in Eastleigh, one of the busiest streets in Eastleigh town. It has a lot of businesses that are usually opened up, clothing stores, we have food joints opened up. And as you can see just behind me, there are a lot of people, of course, who are eager to see what exactly is happening and hear from the president today what exactly is going to say. Eastleigh is on about 10 days since the containment measure was announced by the president. And so today they're very much eager to understand what exactly is the president going to tell them in terms of the extension of the containment measure, which is supposed to end sometimes next week on Thursday. What is happening here right now is that most businesses have resumed operation, especially people who are selling clothes, who are selling household items. Most of them have opened their shops here today. We started asking them, we had a bit of a conversation with some of the business owners today and asked them why is it that they've decided to open their businesses. A number of them are raising concerns, a lot of concerns in terms of the economical challenges that they're experiencing right now given the lockdown status, the containment measures in Eastleigh town. So we're just going to speak to a few of them here just to tell us what is their expectations today. How has the containment been so far in terms of containing the spread of the virus? Eastleigh is one of the most hit areas in Nairobi. So we're just going to speak to some of them. They're going to tell us, kwanza kwa ufupi tuambie jina lako ni nani na hii containment ya president ambaye aliweka kwa Eastleigh imewasaidia kivipi kama wana Eastleigh?
Okay, kwa majina naitwa Robert Oduor. Mimi ni hustler wa Eastleigh. Ninakaa kule Mathare. Kusema kweli kufungwa kwa Eastleigh kumeleta maneno mingi ambapo sisi kama mahasela saizi hatuna liche kula kwa nyumba. Sisi tumefungiwa mabarabara hakika, lakini maduka Eastleigh imefunguka. Sasa sisi kama wananchi mahasela tunajiuliza, hizi maduka zimefunguliwa Eastleigh, zinaifunguliwa nani auze ama nani wafanye kazi mahali pale? Mimi kama hasela usema ukweli, hata unaweza ona hapa troli yangu iko hapa. Nimekuja ni kwa ajili ya kujimudu kimaisha. Shilingi 50 nikipata tena kule ninaporudi kwa nyumba, hakika serikali inanihangaisha. Nikifunga kazi saa 8 hivi, kufika kwa nyumba ni saa 2 ambapo hiyo ni masaa ya curfew.
Haya, sawa. Pia ningependa kuongea na wewe. Umesema kuwa kuna pesa ambazo walikuwa wanafaa kupatia wananchi. Hizo pesa umeshazipata tayari? Na wewe kwanza kama mwana Eastleigh, hisia zako ni vipi?
Jina langu ni Fatuma Abdalla, mimi ni mwana Eastleigh na tuliambiwa tukae nyumbani, serikali itatusaidia. Hiyo stay home haijatusaidia chochote. Mimi nauza mask. Hiyo pesa yenye rais alisema atatusaidia hatujapata. Hapa wananchi wanahangaika. Ingawaje tumefunguliwa maduka lakini barabara zimefungwa. Hakuna mtu anakuja kununua duka, hata mask upati mtu akumuuzia sababu kila mtu ako ndani. Wale wenye wako kila mtu ako na mask yake. Sasa serikali anatuumiza, Uhuru anatuumiza wana Eastleigh. Sababu wana Eastleigh wote unaona hapa ni maasala. Hata boda boda hakuna hata mtu anabeba. Watu wanaumia ndani na manyumba na watoto na tuko na njaa. Kwa hivyo Uhuru atufungulie barabara, watu wafanye kazi. Hizi maduka hakuna mtu ananunua.
Sawa sawa. Kama wewe kama mwenye bodaboda, hisia zako ni vipi katika
mimi kama kwa majina ni Titus Kireangi Vyaine. Tulikuwa tunaomba sisi kama wana bonda, tafadhali Uhuru bwana, tufungulie kazi tafadhali brother. Sasa hizo ugonjwa tuko na sanitizer, tuko na mask, tuko na gloves. We have everything. Sasa mkubwa tulikuwa tunaomba tufungulie kazi tafadhali, tufanye kazi baba.
There you have it, Zeynab. A lot of varied concerns in terms of what exactly they expect from the president today. The argument is that they're saying that some of the containment measures, especially the containment measures by the president, has not benefited the commoners, especially guys who depend on the day-to-day earnings in Eastleigh. So they're saying that they expect the president to give them some good news. There are also concerns in terms of the funds that the president or the government had said would be disbursed to houses across the country, that they say has not reached treat them so far. But so far, the situation here is that most businesses are open. What we've not seen is a number of eateries, of course, have not yet opened, given the fact that the President and the Ministry of Health had given up regulations in terms of what exactly they're supposed to do, testing of their staff, maintaining social distancing and hand sanitizers and all that. So businesses in terms of eateries, those have not opened, but most of the business here are open, and things seem to have been resuming back to normal. Back to you, Zeynab.
All right, tell us, Apollo, there from Eastleigh area, of course, even trying a little bit hard to maintain the social distancing there as he interviews those people. Well, we now cross over live to the newsroom where we have our features editor, Brenda Wanga, who's there and probably will be giving us a glimpse of how really effective these containment measures have been. Brenda, good afternoon. 4 more days. In the next 4 days, the cessation of movement in the two areas, that is Eastleigh and Old Town, will also be coming to an end today. The curfew directive has come to an end. How effective has it been so far?
Well, you are right, Zain. It has been about 51 days of both the containment and the curfew. The curfew announced on the 25th of March and taking effect on the 27th of March, renewed twice. We are expecting the President to address the nation today to review these measures that were amongst a raft of other measures that were taken by the government in conjunction with the Ministry of Health to try and flatten the curve of the COVID-19 spread in the country. Now, just how effective these measures have been remains to be seen. We saw the first time when these measures were taken, the cases in the country were just below 100. Right now, we're talking about 781 cases, about 48 deaths, and just about 200 recoveries, if I'm not wrong. So it is really hard to gauge just how effective they have been. But there are those who have argued that if these measures had not been taken, perhaps we would be looking at much higher figures, those projected into perhaps thousands or tens of thousands at this point in time. So we will be waiting to hear what the President has to say, perhaps also just trying to give us a clear picture of whether they believe that the measures they have taken so far have helped in reducing the the march of the disease in the country. Zeynab?
Before I let you go, there has been a lot of concern on the impact this has had, not only in the economy, socially as well. What do you make of it? And with regards to this, and of course, the economic impact that it's had in the country, do you believe that probably the President might see it fit to probably extend the curfew and the cessation of movement in those particular counties?
Well, Zeynab, it's hard to tell what the President will be telling us in that address that will be happening this afternoon, but we do know for a fact these measures have had a huge impact in the economy of the people, especially those people who are used to leaving their houses every morning to go out there and eke a living. Their working hours have been reduced considerably. You have to be in your house by 7 p.m. That means you have to leave your place of work that much earlier, meaning that you lose those hours that you could have used to perhaps just make that extra shilling. We've seen social gatherings have also been reduced considerably. Kids are not going to school. We do know that that is under review right now, but there is no denying that these measures have had a big impact on the country's economy. We have seen in the past the government trying to look at means of slowly reopening the economy of the country. We've seen measures being put in place, hoteliers being asked to meet a certain number of guidelines to allow them to operate at least on a reduced capacity. We do know that many people right now are perhaps just struggling to put food on their table when the economy practically is just grinding slowly to a halt. But you have to look at the bigger picture, Zeynab. There is that need to ensure that there's continuity in the economy, that people are able to go around their businesses safely as they keep themselves safe from this COVID-19 disease. But on the other hand, you also have the need by the government to protect the entire population of the country. So it is a very delicate balancing act, and one that the President and the Ministry of Health have been trying to ensure that both sides of this coin are actually catered for. So it will be interesting to see what the President says when he does speak to the nation. But perhaps just speaking from the previous Ministry of Health briefings we've seen in the past, the Ministry of Health, the Cabinet Secretary saying that if people continue to treat this disease normally, it will treat us abnormally. hopefully perhaps the president will be taking these things into consideration as he mulls over whether to extend the containment and the curfew or to relax the rules a little bit. Zeynab?
All right, thank you, Brenda Wanga there, Futures editor, coming live from our newsroom. And of course, here at Wanjiku Mwalimu saying, I hope the president will also address the flood situation. Of course, that's something that we'll be awaiting to see later this afternoon. He is expected to address. Our eyes are trained at State House for that. Now, almost 250 million Africans could become infected with COVID-19. This is according to a new modeling study by the World Health Organization. There are concerns over the readiness of healthcare systems on the continent to handle mass infections. In the midst of the pandemic, Burundi has expelled the top WHO officials in the country days ahead of key elections.
More than 200 million people in Africa could be infected with the new coronavirus, a new World Health Organization modelling study has found. As many as 150,000 people on the continent could die in a year unless urgent action is taken, though the study's authors predicted a lower infection rate than in other parts of the world. There's concern that countries' health systems won't be able to handle mass infections. Meanwhile, Burundi has expelled a World Health Organization team in the middle of the pandemic, days before presidential elections. The government gave the 4 officials a few days to leave the country without specifying the reason. An official told AFP that the health minister accuses the WHO of unacceptable interference. The announcement came amid low testing for COVID-19 and few precautions against the disease. Burundi has officially recorded 27 cases and 1 death from the coronavirus, but doctors speak of more deaths of patients who had COVID-like symptoms. Authorities have downplayed the seriousness of the virus and allowed public gatherings like mass election rallies, in contradiction with the World Health Organization recommendations. Burundians will choose a new president, parliament and local officials on the 20th of May. The WHO defended its team and said it was trying to find out the reasons for their expulsion. Truck drivers are one of the few groups of workers allowed to travel around East Africa to ferry essential goods across the region. But a high number of COVID-19 cases among the drivers has raised alarm that they may spread the virus along the way. Kenya has begun mass testing on its border with Uganda to spot infected truckers.
It is good to test us truck drivers because we mix with a lot of people and meet various types of people along the way.
Then I can comfortably say that we are able to test approximately 5,000 samples within a day, right here in Kemrialupe.
A Ugandan wildlife sanctuary is appealing for funds as it only has enough money to feed its animals until June.
We have had a shortfall of $400,000 as a result of the lockdown, which was basically supposed to come from the visitors. And since we closed down, that implied that that income is not coming in.
No visitors have been to the Ugandan Wildlife Conservation Education Centre since it closed its doors in March. But the animals themselves have been thriving in the quiet, finding it much easier to breed. Meanwhile, Kenya cordoned off a suburb in the capital Nairobi, along with Mombasa's Old Town, to stem skyrocketing coronavirus figures. Both locations have recorded more than 60 cases each, out of a total of 582 nationwide. Similarly, as Angola tentatively reopens, one neighbourhood in Luanda remains isolated after several residents were diagnosed with COVID-19. To date, Angola has recorded just 43 virus cases, including 2 deaths. Young people have been part of innovation to tackle the virus. Engineering students in Senegal have invented automatic hand sanitizer dispensers and medical robots. From their engineering school in Dakar, they've turned their technical skills toward easing pressure on wards, and they're already in talks with hospitals.
We realized that in Senegal, at least in developing countries, medical equipment to protect health workers was limited. Since the workers are on the front line of the fight, the idea is to protect them so that they can protect and lead the fight against the pandemic.
And an innovative 9-year-old boy from Western Kenya has designed a machine that allows people to wash their hands using a foot pedal, helping to avoid the spread of germs. Steve Wamakota has become a social media celebrity following his invention.
Siku ya kwanza nilisanya mbao.
On the first day, I collected timber, nuts, and nails, and on the second day, I started making this machine. I continued on the third day, and on the fourth day, my dad helped me finish it.
Na baba.
Now tonight on NTV Jioni and Weekend Edition, we take you deep inside a COVID-19 treatment unit in action. We'll speak to various patients and doctors receiving and administering care and on modalities of treatment, the mental health concerns and stigma bedeviling many who have tested positive for the virus. Here's a sneak preview on the virus war room with Kevin Mutai.
How COVID-19 patients have been battling.
I'm positive na niko na hizo signs zote, si ati kwa lazima nianguke ama nikose pumzi ndio kwa.
Majirani wanakuona ukikohoa wanakutenga.
Most of them are symptomatic.
Ima that was on a Friday. Kaambiwa fuata mama penye mama alienda. You know, I felt very good. Madaktari amenileta kwa honeymoon. But now na honeymoon minus other things
Wengine wanapuzia wanasema hii ni government scam, hakuna kitu kama hiyo inatokea. Hii kitu iko.
Hilo naona sisi bado tuna nguvu and we have our Bible here. Ukifika usiku hapa nafikiri we are the prayer warriors in this house.
Well, the COVID war room, you do not want to miss that. Let's take a quick break here on NTV at 1. We still have a lot we've lined up for you. Stay with us.
Sonadol Extra imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli kupambana haraka na maumivu ya kichwa, mwili na hata meno. Sonadol Extra, hakika maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Working from home? No problem. Fiber Home has you covered with the fastest and most reliable internet speeds. Get connected today. Kazi lazima iendelee.
With DSTV Now, you open up a world of possibility where your entertainment is ready for you anytime and anywhere. To get connected, ask your parents to go to the App Store, hit download and log in.
Incredible! Incredible!
And while they're there, with DSTV's parental control feature, setting you up for the most fun and safest viewing around is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Amazing entertainment and learning, anywhere with DSTV.
Lebsk, de football?
21 appearances in the top flight, all as a substitute.
Well, football is back.
Wait now with quite Zodika!
Bundesliga is back. No need to learn German. NTV has you covered. Live Bundesliga action every Saturday.
Düsseldorf take the lead.
Ach ja!
Here at NMG, we are working very hard to ensure your favorite publications, Daily Nation, Business Daily, Taifa Leo, and the East African are readily available. In a bid to support the efforts to prevent the transmission of COVID-19, NMG has ensured our staff, our distributors, and their staff adhere to set guidelines. At our printing plant, all staff are required to wash their hands before entering the factory and must be wearing a mask. All workers either change their clothes on entering the factory or wear an overcoat. We are keeping doors open to avoid our staff touching door handles repeatedly. With our automated printing, contact with the newspaper is kept to a minimum, and at the packing process, the staff observes social distancing. Vehicles used to transport the newspapers are disinfected daily before the newspapers are loaded, and our delivery staff all wear masks and wash their hands regularly. Our vendors ensure that they sanitize every time they handle money and wear their masks at all times. NMG is proud to be able to safely meet your information needs. Stay safe, stay informed with our favorite NMG publications.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching NTV at 1. Now, the Council of Governors has welcomed a determination by the Supreme Court on the Division of Revenue, which ruled that the national government cannot proceed to pass appropriation bill without involving county governments. In the advisory opinion, the Supreme Court stated that the determination will prevent a repeat of the prolonged impasse of a consideration of the Division of Revenue bill experienced last year.
This gives a big chance to the Senate to protect devolution. The other issue is that the opinion of CRA, Commission on Revenue Allocation, although not binding to the National Assembly or to the Senate, but it has to be referred to. It's mandatory that it will have an input on the division of revenue.
Meanwhile, residents of Ruai Estate have been rendered homeless following an eviction and demolition exercise carried out last night. The houses have been brought down to pave way for the expansion of the Ruai sewage plant. The residents have accused the government of defying a court order delaying the eviction process.
At 9 o'clock on Friday evening, residents of Ruai area were left to brave the cold night after their houses were brought down boulder by boulder. The homeowners had been given a directive by the government to pave way for the expansion of the Ruai sewage treatment plant in the area.
Extension ya siwa hatukatai, lakini tulisikizana na PS wa lands Bwana Peter Muraguri ya kwamba hakuna mtu yeyote atakuja kubomolewa manyumba, kwa sababu walikubali kututoa hapa kutupeleka kwingine. So tulikuwa tunangoja tutolewe, tupeleke kwingine, tutoe vitu zetu polepole, tukwenda mahali hapo.
They then proceeded to court to seek an injunction to delay the eviction process.
Sina mahali pa kwenda kwa sababu hata pesa ndio sina. Na barabara hata zimefungwa, hata kama ni nyumbani hiyo pesa hata ingeenda hata sina. Kama saizi kuna mvua, mimi niko na watoto, niko na mtoto wa miezi 11, tulilala naye hapa kwa baridi. Hii mvua pia ndio hii inanyesha. Ni serikali tu tusaidie, hakuna njia nyingine.
They now request the government to compensate them before moving to alternative location in order to cushion them during this financially straining time. Eunice Omolo, NTV.
Vulnerable communities in Eleret along the Kenya-Ethiopia border have been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. A biting food shortage is looming following the closure of its border and subsequent state of emergency by Ethiopia. Almost 90% of communities in Eleret, Marsabit County heavily rely on Ethiopia for food supply. Mamo Ali has more.
Across major towns in Marsabit County, politicians are busy distributing COVID-19 prevention materials such as sanitizers and masks. Yet for Ilere town, not a single hand-washing booth has been set up in any of public places. And for this far-flung town, which is located on the shores of Lake Turkana, the government's directive on social distancing is not adhered to at all. Residents here do not wear masks, and for them, life continues as usual. Residents here say the government has forgotten them during this COVID-19 crisis, with the long stretch forming the Kenya-Ethiopia border not having any screening point.
I have not seen a single place or a public place where there are sanitizers. No, I don't think the people here can afford masks. And if they even could afford the masks, where are the masks? There are no masks. And I think this is also where the government is also failing, because you should not only just concentrate on the big cities, not county headquarters or what have you. I think these small villages like here, Ileret for example, avail the masks. Even if they are for sale, people afford them. I don't think they are too destitute not to afford even a 20 shilling mask.
Enforcing the curfew in Ileret is an uphill task for police officers, since some of the places cannot be accessed due to its remoteness and hostile reception that officers on the ground receive when enforcing both social distancing and curfews.
So basically, the local authorities, they're imposing the curfew. That I'm not denying. But then they also have their challenges. The challenges, they cannot reach all these places because it's just within these two centers where they can reach. But if you go to the forest, for example, nobody goes to the forest because, you know, you go even places where there are no roads. You cannot even reach by vehicle.
Residents are least concerned about wearing masks and sanitizing, since their greatest concern at the moment is combating the biting starvation. Almost 90% of communities in Ileret heavily rely on Ethiopia for food supply, and now the closure of the Kenya-Ethiopia border spells doom for the community that has been marginalized by both levels of government in Kenya.
Mpaka sasa hakuna chakula imeshafika hapa na njaa iko kwa hali ya juu sana, kwa sababu penye the nearest market wanga tunaenda ni huko Ethiopia, na hiyo border ile inaitwa total lockdown imefanywa na Ethiopia. Sasa hakuna kuenda huko, sasa hapa njaa iko hali ya juu sana, watu wako na njaa sana.
And as the 10 days door-to-door county-wide awareness campaign to reduce rural infections come to an end, more needs to be done to educate the community in the north, who, despite local initiative by NGOs, failed to adhere to the need for social distancing.
Lakini because of ignorance of the most pastoralist communities, wanasema hiyo ni eno ya watu wa nguo. Inahitaji watu wawe kwa ground kabisa, alafu watu wakuwa distributed mpaka waende kwa mali huko, waelimishwe vizuri, maridio ndio watafahamu kabisa. Lakini ya siku moja kupita na kurudi, hiyo hawatashika vizuri.
Mamo Ali, NTV, Marsabit.
Meanwhile, thousands of residents in Tana Delta Sub-County are being forced to flee their homes following heavy rainfall and flooding in the region. Ngina Kirori has more on the pain of rain.
Mwanja village in the Tana Delta has turned into a swamp. The heavy rains and flooding have displaced more than 7,000 residents of Kipini West in Tana Delta Sub-County. The most affected areas include Mwanja, Odhole, Samicha, Kikomo and Handaraku. Only 4,000 have managed to relocate but have nowhere to stay.
There are people who are living in camps. We are asking for food. Food items and non-food items such as blankets and nets. So other thing is, if you can get medical assistance, it will be also of help.
Close to 3,000 more residents cannot move to safety and have been forced to stay within the flooded village with their young children. And therein comes the risk of waterborne diseases.
Hawa tu si ati kupenda kwao kukaa hapa. Wamekonza means ya kwenda nyanja za juu. Lakini saa hii wakipata means wako tayari kwenda hizo mara kama hizo. Lakini saa hii hawapati means yote ya kwenda pale juu. Ndiposa wame stranded hapa. Na saa hii hata kwa boti huwezi kubeba, manake mto si safi, mto saa hii imeziba, kwa hivyo hatuwezi tukabeba.
Roads have been rendered impassable and locals here only move around using boats. They are now appealing to authorities to put in place rescue efforts.
Shida ni mingi, watu wako na njaa. Hakuna usaidizi yoyote kwa saa hii tumepata. Kwa hivyo sisi tunaomba serikali usaidizi. Tupate usaidizi.
In Nyandarua County, repair works have begun on a section of the water transmission pipeline in Sasumwa Dam, which was damaged by a landslide. The dam accounts for 20% of Nairobi's water supply.
The pipeline, the main pipeline, was displaced. It is currently undergoing repair, and it will take a few more days, but it is good to note even then, with the 20% of water not reaching Nairobi from that system, has a big impact. Hence my call for responsible use of water.
The Cabinet Secretary says the government will provide relief aid for those who have been displaced. Gina Kirori, NTV.
And we are getting reports that Rwanda genocide suspect Felician Kabuga has been arrested in Paris. We are getting and gathering more information with regards on that, and we'll be bringing you more in our subsequent bulletins. Remember, the 84-year-old fugitive has been pursued by the international justice for over 25 years. And of course, this is over crimes he allegedly committed in the 1994 genocide that happened in Rwanda. So of course, we'll be bringing you more details in our subsequent bulletins as we gather more details. Now, the net earnings of the alcoholic beverages manufacturer East African Breweries will not exceed 8.6 billion shillings for the full year ended June 2020. At the very least, investors are now expecting a 25% decline from the earnings registered in the same period in 2019. This is according to a statement from the company's board, which has issued a profit warning. The company's board has attributed the profit warning to the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the raft of measures taken to contain the disease, which have negatively impacted its business operations. The EABL share at the Nairobi Securities Exchange has lost 16.9% of its value since the year started, closing Friday's trade at 165 shillings.
EABL trading. It is just that. It's a cautionary statement. As you're aware, things are moving very fast. They're changing very fast. So who knows what will happen? Of course, as you're aware that this pandemic has hit consumption of our brands, as our brands are of social nature. So if things relax, things could get better. But I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen next week, let alone next month.
And in our sports news this hour, the German Bundesliga becomes the world's first major football league to get back during the coronavirus pandemic this Saturday. Saturday's fixtures will see second-placed Borussia Dortmund host Schalke 04 at the Signal Iduna Park. Our live match on NTV from 4:30 p.m. will bring you Augsburg taking on Wolfsburg without their coach Heiko Herrlich, who broke quarantine rules by leaving the team hotel to buy toothpaste and will miss the restart. In other matches, Hoffenheim play Hertha Berlin, Fortuna take on Paderborn, RP Leipzig face Freiburg, and Eintracht Frankfurt battle Borussia Mönchengladbach. Defending champions and current league leaders Bayern Munich play Union Berlin, while Cologne host Mainz on Sunday. The final 9 rounds of games will run over 6 weeks with the aim of finishing the season before 30th of June.
It is also a question of mental strength. This is a key point. You play a pass, you shoot on the goal, and there is no reaction from fans. We have to be totally aware of that and prepare the best way possible. That's important.
This is not the time to talk and discuss the championship. These are extremely new and strange circumstances for everyone. We have to adjust to them. That's what matters. Of course, we want to win the game, but first of all, we have to make this restart a success, both in terms of organization and in terms of the sport. It's all about the game against Schalke and nothing else. Everything else will follow.
Bayern Munich boss Hansi Flick admitted that he isn't sure whether his players are much fit ahead of the Bundesliga restart this weekend. Defending champions Bayern hold a 4-point lead ahead of Sunday's game at Union Berlin as German football returns behind closed doors following a 2-month suspension due to the pandemic.
Wenn wir Fußball spielen, dann wollen wir playing without spectators, and of course we want to win when we play. We owe it to our fans who have to stay at home. It's our job to play a beautiful game of football. We have 9 match days. It's like a mini tournament or a power season.
Has now come to pass. In Kenyan politics, it seems you have to treat your friends as if one day they might turn your foe. Backstabbing and betrayal are now the buzzwords, and you better believe it, there are no permanent friends or enemies in this game, just interests. The anger is palpable. And as Emmanuel Juma reports on Bullseye, one Kipchumba Murkomen may just have found out that nothing costs more than that which we are given. All right, and as I leave you with that bullseye from Juma, let's now close our bulletin this hour. Many thanks for watching. We'll leave you with that. My name is Zeynab Ismail.
This could easily be described as walking a tightrope. After all, they have been walking on the wild side of politics, and a musician once asked, "What shall we do?"
Heaven will intervene.
Okay. And for that to happen, one needed to have prepared. In another language, kujipanga, and that should have happened in advance. Just call that kujipanga the heavenly edition, but could just as well pass as Murkomen's next big job. A singer, choirman, or something close to that.
Ninaomba mtuombee kama kanisa.
He had seen many things happening, this man. Apart from practicing singing, cooking too was the other alternative, just in case.
You have to knead it like this. Unaona kwanza angalia. So the unga ina mix vizuri na inakuwa tight angalia. Nothing cooking.
Come on, Francis. Give the man a chance at something. Let's get William's opinion.
Unajua, ukiapply kazi ya upishi, huwezi kulalamika ati iko moshi na iko joto. Kwa sababu kazi ya upishi, chakula haiwezi iva bila moshi na bila moto. Sasa hii ni kazi tu ya upishi, tutaendelea naye. Iko moshi saa zingine joto inakuwa mingi, lakini hii chakula mpaka taiva.
But it appears that smoke is becoming unbearable.
He will run away by himself. Ni maneno madogo tutanyorosha.
What do you people want President Uhuru Kenyatta to do to Ruto? What do you want him to do?
What indeed? So many questions, very few answers. Tell us, Francis, what should happen?
Let him disappear as if it's not there, and he will service 2021 and he will survive.
He has assumed the role of destroyer-in-chief, this man.
I am a system in myself.
And because of the system, Murkomen is still wandering.
It is the mystery, my brother. The mystery we all wonder about.
There was a time when Murkomen could boldly declare,
"And I can speak for President Uhuru Kenyatta, and I will speak for President Uhuru Kenyatta until the day he contradicts me."
Aha, now that is something. But because Bindu Vichenjanga,
I don't know, I don't speak for the president, so...
Now see what this tanga thing has led to.
Na wewe mtu ukiniita tanga tutakosana na wewe.
William Samoei Ruto will not be the president of the Republic of Kenya.
I am here in Jubilee, my friends. Let me be very clear.
Even with a reduced payslip?
Wewe unajua payslip yangu ni shilingi ngapi?
Look at this picture. Amazing how quickly things change. Politics is indeed the art of concealment, and it is tantalizing. You are eating together today, and the next day?
That the majority has effected changes, we shall now take effect as follows.
Tusipendane tukikumbatiana, lakini kumbe uko na kisu unataka kudunga mtu katika mkongo.
He may have seen it coming.
Utusamee, hata ukipata rais mwambie atusamee.
But remember, never tell a person his faults. He may cure them, but not forgive you.
I want to say, Mr. President, now therefore deliver for the people of Kenya. Murkomen is out of the way.
He never learns. We ask again.
What shall we do?
Turn to prayer. Spirituality and politics, a very confusing mix indeed. Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.
This is NTV.